The shuttle docked at Station Meridian 7 with a soft hiss, pressed her face against the small window and looked at her new home. The station was huge. It floated in space like a silver wheel, spinning slowly against the black emptiness. Lights blinked along its surface. Ships moved around it like small fish around a whale. She was 17 years old. She was from Brazil on a planet called Earth, and she was very, very far from home. The door opened. A blast of cool, recycled air hit her face. It smelled clean but also strange, like metal and flowers mixed together. Grabbed her bag and stepped out into the docking area. Aliens, there were aliens everywhere. She had seen pictures, of course. She had studied for months before this trip, but seeing them in person was different. A tall creature with blue skin and 4 arms walked past her, talking into a device. A small being that looked like a floating jellyfish drifted by, its body glowing soft pink. 2 creatures covered in brown fur stood near a food stall, making sounds that her translator chip turned into words about the weather. Stood very still. Her heart was beating fast. She reminded herself to breathe. A voice called out to her, "Human exchange student." She turned and saw a creature approaching her. It was about her height, with smooth green skin and large golden eyes. It had a long neck and thin arms that ended in delicate fingers. When it moved like water flowing. "I am," the creature said. I have been chosen to be your cultural guide. Welcome to the Galactic Academy." Tried to smile in a way that did not show her teeth. She had been told that many species found human teeth frightening. Too many, too sharp, like a predator. "Thank you," she said. "I'm happy to be here." Looked at her for a long moment. Then made a sound that the translator called nervous laughter. "I must be honest with you, many students here are concerned about your arrival." "Concerned?" "Afraid," admitted. "Your species is new to the galactic community, and your is, well." Finished, she had heard this word many times. "I know." Earth was classified as a Class 12. This meant it was one of the most dangerous planets that had ever produced intelligent life. The gravity was crushing. The atmosphere was filled with a corrosive gas called oxygen. The temperature could change by 50 degrees in a single day. The planet was covered with predators, poisons, diseases, and natural disasters. And humans had not just survived there. They had become the dominant species. To the rest of the galaxy, this was terrifying. Led through the station. As they walked, other students stopped and stared. Some whispered to each other. Some moved out of her way quickly, pressing against walls to let her pass. One small creature actually ran away when it saw her coming. His heart sank. She had hoped it would be different here. She had hoped that she could just be a student, just be normal, but she could see it in their eyes. They did not see a 17-year-old girl who liked biology and old movies and her grandmother's cooking. They saw a monster. Her room was small but comfortable. It had a bed, a desk, and a window that looked out at the stars. Helped her unpack and explain the rules of the academy. Classes started in 2 days. Meals were served in the central hall. Fighting was strictly forbidden. "Fighting?" asked. His golden eyes blinked. "Yes, physical violence is the most serious crime at the academy. Any student who starts a fight will be expelled immediately." Nodded. This was not a problem for her. She had no interest in fighting anyone. She had come here to learn, to study alien biology, to make friends if anyone would let her. Violence was the last thing on her mind. That night, she lay in bed and looked at the stars through her window. She thought about her family back on Earth. Her mother had cried at the spaceport. Her father had hugged her so tight she could barely breathe. Her little brother had made her promise to bring him back an alien toy. She would make them proud. She would prove that humans could be good galactic citizens. She would be quiet and careful and kind. She would not give anyone a reason to fear her. The next morning, went to the central hall for breakfast. The room was enormous, filled with long tables and hundreds of students. The noise was incredible. Clicks, whistles, growls, and hums filled the air as dozens of species communicated in their native languages. She got her food from a machine that had been programmed with human nutritional needs and found an empty table in the corner. She ate alone, watching the other students. That was when she saw it happen. A group of students had gathered near the entrance. At the center of the group stood a tall creature with gray skin and a face like a carved stone mask. It had sharp ridges along its arms and small, cruel eyes. Several other students stood behind it, watching. In front of this creature stood a much smaller being. It was about 3 feet tall with a body like a plant. Green leaves grew from its head and its skin was the color of tree bark. It was shaking. The gray creature was holding something above its head, a small container. The plant creature was reaching for it, making sounds of distress. Please, the translator turned its sounds into words. Please, I need that. Those are my nutrients. I will get sick without them. The gray creature laughed. It was an ugly sound. Then you should have thought about that before you walked in my path, little weed. The other students in the group laughed too. No one else in the hall seemed to notice. Or if they did, they pretended not to see. Watched, her hands tightened on her food tray. She wanted to help. She wanted to stand up and walk over there and make the gray creature stop. But she remembered what it said. She remembered her promise to her family. She remembered that she was a representative of all humanity. She stayed in her seat. The gray creature dropped the container on the floor and crushed it under its foot. Nutrient paste splattered everywhere. The plant creature made a sound like crying and fell to its knees, trying to scoop up what it could. The gray creature and its friends walked away, still laughing. And as they passed the table, the gray creature stopped. Its small eyes found her. They stared at each other for a long moment. Did not look away. She did not smile. She did not move. The gray creature's eyes narrowed. Then it smiled, showing teeth of its own, and walked on. Learned later that the gray creature's name was. His father was an important diplomat, and he had never in his entire life been told no. She also learned that he did not like being watched. 1 week passed at the academy, fell into a routine. She woke up early because her body was still on Earth time. She ate breakfast alone. She went to her classes. She studied in the library. She went to sleep and dreamed of home. She made a few friends. Her guide turned out to be kind and curious. The green-skinned alien asked her many questions about Earth. What did rain feel like? Was it true that humans could eat plants and animals? Did the sun really burn human skin? Answered all the questions patiently. Yes, rain felt like cold fingers on your face. Yes, humans could eat almost anything. Yes, the sun could burn them, but they healed quickly. You heal? Asked, eyes wide. From burns. From most things, said. Cuts, bruises, broken bones. Our bodies fix themselves over time. Had to sit down after hearing that. Also became friends with Pell, the small plant creature she had seen being bullied on her first day. Pell was shy and spoke in a soft voice, but he was smart and funny once you got to know him. He was studying botany, which found amusing since he was basically a plant himself. It is like a human studying anatomy, Pell explained with what might have been a smile. Understanding yourself is the first step to understanding the universe. Life was not perfect, but it was good, was learning so much. Alien biology was even more fascinating than she had imagined. Every species had evolved differently. Some breathed methane, some saw in infrared, some communicated through smell or color or vibrations in the ground. The universe was full of wonders. But there was a shadow over everything, and that shadow had a name. He was everywhere, in the hallways, in the cafeteria, in the classes they shared, and every time saw him, he was watching her. His small eyes followed her like a predator tracking prey, which was ironic, she thought, because she was supposed to be the predator here. He did not speak to her, not yet, but she could feel his attention like a cold wind on her neck. On the 8th day, something changed. Was sitting in comparative anatomy class. The professor was a being made entirely of crystal, and its voice sounded like wind chimes. Today's lesson was about extreme environment adaptation, how different species had evolved to survive on difficult worlds. For our next example, the professor said, we will examine the species known as humans. Felt every eye in the room turned toward her. She kept her face calm and looked at her notes. An image appeared on the screen at the front of the class. It showed a human running across a grassland, chasing an antelope. The image had been taken thousands of years ago, reconstructed from historical records. Humans evolved as persistent predators, the professor explained. They could not run as fast as their prey. They could not fly or swim quickly. They had no claws or fangs or venom, so they used a different strategy. They chased their prey until it died from exhaustion. The class was silent. Some students looked sick. A human can pursue prey for days without stopping, the professor continued. Their bodies cool through a process called sweating, which allows them to keep moving when other creatures must rest. They can survive injuries that would kill most species. They can function with damaged organs, missing limbs, and even parts of their brain destroyed. More images appeared. Humans climbing mountains, humans swimming in freezing water, humans walking through fire. There is a class 12, the professor said. They have evolved to survive almost anything. This is why they are sometimes called the galaxy's cockroaches. A few students laughed nervously. Primitive, a voice said loudly. Did not need to look to know who it was. Was sitting at the back of the room with his friends. He was leaning back in his seat with his arms crossed. They are primitive, savage. They became strong because their planet was trying to kill them every moment. But what does strength matter when you have no culture, no art, no civilization worth speaking of? The professor made a sound like clinking glass. That is not accurate, student. Human civilization has produced. Weapons, interrupted. That is all they produce. Weapons and violence. Look at their history. War after war after war. They cannot even stop fighting each other. He looked directly at, how long before they start fighting us? Said nothing. She kept her eyes on her notes. Her heart was pounding, but she did not let it show on her face. The class ended, packed her things quickly and left. She walked fast through the corridor, hopping to get away before. She stopped, was behind her with 3 of his friends. They blocked the corridor. Other students saw what was happening and quickly walked the other way. I am talking to you, said. He walked closer. He was taller than her by at least a foot. Up close, she could see the sharp ridges on his arms. They looked like knives. Do you not know how to respond when a superior being addresses you? Took a breath. She had been trained for this. Before leaving Earth, she had spent weeks learning how to handle conflict without violence. Speak softly. Do not make eye contact for too long. Give ground when possible. Never escalate. I apologize, she said quietly. I did not mean to be rude. Apologize? Laughed. Listen to it. The killer apologizes. He moved closer. I saw you watching me on your first day. You think I did not notice. I notice everything. I meant no offense. You meant no offense, he repeated in a mocking voice. Tell me, human, on your savage world, when someone looks at you the way you looked at me, what do you do? She did not answer. You kill them, yes. That is what your kind does. You see a threat, you eliminate it. His face was very close now. Is that what you want to do to me? Kill me? No, said. I do not want to hurt anyone. I just want to study. Stared at her for a long moment. Then he stepped back and made a disgusted sound. Look at you, the great, so scared, so weak. Maybe the stories about your kind are lies. Maybe you are nothing but cowards with strong bones. He turned and walked away. His friends followed, laughing. Stood alone in the corridor. Her hands were shaking. She pressed them against her legs until they stopped. She was not scared. That was not why she had backed down. She was trying to be good. But over the next few days did not let her rest. He followed her. He mocked her in the halls. He knocked her books from her hands and said it was an accident. He called her primitive, savage, monster, animal. Each time walked away. Each time she said nothing. Each time she remembered her promise. On the 10th day it happened. She was sitting in class taking notes, was behind her. He had been whispering insults for the entire hour. She ignored him. She ignored his friends laughing. She ignored everything. The class ended. She stood up to leave. His hand grabbed her shoulder and spun her around. Before she could react, his other hand came up and struck her across the face. The ridge on his arm cut her cheek. Blood-red human blood ran down her face. The room went completely silent. Was smiling. He expected her to cry. He expected her to run. He expected her to do what every other victim had done. But was not from his world. She was not from any world these people understood. She was from Earth. And something very old woke up behind her eyes. Time stopped. That is not true, of course. Time never stops. But in that moment, everything seemed to slow down until she could see each second like a photograph. The first second began with pain. Strike had cut her cheek. The ridge on his arm was sharp, designed by evolution to cut through the soft plants of his. Against human skin, it worked like a blade. Blood welled up from the wound, hot and wet on her face. Human blood is red because of iron. Humans need iron to carry oxygen through their bodies. This is because they evolved in a world with a corrosive oxygen atmosphere. Most species in the galaxy would die if they breathed the air of Earth, but humans needed that poison to live. The blood ran down his cheek, and the pain hit her brain, and her body began to react. She did not choose what happened next. That is important to understand. There was no decision, no thought. 40,000 years of evolution made the choice for her. Her brain released adrenaline. This is a chemical that humans produce when they are in danger. It makes the heart beat faster. It sends blood to the muscles. It shuts down unnecessary functions like digestion and complex thinking. It prepares the body for one of two things: fight or flight. Could not run. There was a wall behind her, students on both sides, in front. So her body chose fight. The adrenaline hit her bloodstream like fire. Her heartbeat doubled in less than half a second. Her pupils dilated, taking in more light. Her muscles tensed, drawing on reserves of energy that her body kept for emergencies. The world became slow and sharp and very, very clear. The first second ended. The second second was movement. His eyes saw his face. He was smiling. He thought he had won. He thought this small human girl would cry and run away like all his other victims. He did not understand what he had done. He did not understand what he had woken up. Humans evolved on a planet that tried to kill them every single day. They survived by being the most dangerous things on that planet. Not the fastest, not the strongest, not the most armored, but the most relentless, the most adaptable, the most willing to do whatever it took to survive. When a human is attacked, their body does not ask permission. It acts. His weight shifted. Her feet moved without her telling them to. Her right shoulder rotated back. Her hand closed into a fist. A human fist is a remarkable thing. The bones are arranged in a way that spreads impact across the entire hand. The muscles of the arm and shoulder can put the entire weight of the body behind a single blow. Humans are one of the few species in the galaxy that evolved specifically to punch things. His body knew how to do this. She had never trained to fight. She had never hit anyone in her life. But her body knew. The knowledge was written in her genes, passed down from 100,000 generations of ancestors who had survived by being able to hit things very, very hard. Her fist began to move forward. The second second ended. The third second was contact. His fist traveled through the air at approximately 40 kilometers per hour. This does not sound fast. A ground vehicle can go much faster. A ship can travel at thousands of times this speed. But's fist was attached to an arm that was attached to a body that had been built by evolution to survive on a world with 10 meters per second squared of gravity. Every day of her life had carried her own weight against a force that would crush most species. Her muscles were dense. Her bones were thick. Her tendons were strong. Was his species evolved on a low-gravity world with a gentle climate? They had never needed to be strong. Their bodies were built for flexibility, not durability. Their bones were light. Their muscles were thin. Their skulls were designed to protect their brains from minor bumps, not from impacts. His fist hit his face. The sound was terrible. It was wet and crunchy at the same time, like stepping on a fruit and a dry branch in the same moment. His entire face seemed to fold inward. His eyes rolled back in his head. His body left the ground. He flew backward 3 meters and hit the floor. He did not move. The third second ended. Time started again. Stood frozen with her fist still raised. Blood dripped from her cheek onto the floor. Her heart was pounding so hard she could feel it in her throat. The adrenaline was still roaring through her veins, telling her to fight, to run, to do something. She looked at her hand. It was red, not with her blood, with She looked at, he was lying on the floor in a way that bodies should not lie. His face was wrong. The shape was wrong. Where there should have been a nose and cheekbones and eye sockets, there was just broken. Someone screamed. The sound broke the silence like a rock breaking a window. Suddenly, everyone was screaming. Students ran for the doors. Someone was calling for help on their communicator. Someone else was crying. Could not move. She could not look away from what she had done. She had not meant to hit him that hard. She had not meant to hit him at all. Her body had acted without her permission. She had been trying so hard to be good, to be peaceful, to be everything that humans were supposed to be. But when hit her, her body had remembered what it was: an organism, a survival machine, a thing built to destroy anything that threatened it. "Oh God," she whispered. Her voice sounded strange to her own ears. "Oh God, what did I do?" The medical team arrived quickly. They were wearing protective suits and carrying equipment that did not recognize. They gathered around and began doing things to his face. One of them looked at her with huge, frightened eyes. "Stay back," the medic said. "Do not move." Did not move. She stood exactly where she was, blood drying on her cheek, blood drying on her hand. She heard words floating around her. Massive facial trauma, orbital structure shattered, emergency reconstruction required. He might not survive. He might not survive. She had almost killed him. She had almost killed him with one punch. Security officers arrived. They were big, armored beings with weapons drawn. They approached her slowly like she was a wild animal, which, she supposed, was exactly what she was. "Human," one of them said. "Put your hands up and do not resist." Raised her hands. They were shaking. Everything was shaking. "I did not mean to," she said. Tears were running down her face, mixing with the blood. "I did not mean to. He hit me and I could not stop myself. I could not." The officers put restraints on her wrists. They were gentle, almost scared. They led her out of the classroom and down the corridor while everyone watched. Walked between them and said nothing more. She knew what this meant. The exchange program would be canceled. Humans would be banned from the academy, maybe from the entire station. Her family would be ashamed. Earth would be ashamed. She had tried so hard to be good. She had done everything right. She had walked away from every insult, ignored every mockery, swallowed every humiliation. And in the end, none of it mattered. In the end, when someone hit her, she had reacted exactly the way a predator was supposed to react. She had destroyed him. The security officers led her to a small room and left her there. The door locked behind them. She sat alone in the white room and stared at her hands. 3 seconds. That was all it had taken. 3 seconds to ruin everything. Outside, somewhere on the station, doctors were trying to rebuild space. Students were telling their parents what had happened. News was spreading across the galaxy. A human had attacked a diplomat's son. A human had nearly killed someone with a single blow. A human had proven that everything everyone believed about was true. Closed her eyes and let the tears come. She did not try to stop them. There was no point anymore. 3 seconds. That was how long it took for everything to fall apart. The tribunal chamber was the largest room had ever seen. It was shaped like a half circle, with rows of seats rising up like stairs in an ancient theater. Hundreds of beings sat in those seats, watching. In the center of the room was a small platform where the accused was supposed to stand. Stood on that platform, she had been given clean clothes. The cut on her face had been treated, but she still felt dirty. She still felt like a monster. Above her, on a raised platform of their own, sat the 5 judges. They were from 5 different species, chosen to represent the diversity of the academy. Their faces showed nothing. They were here to decide her fate. To her left sat the prosecution. Ambassador's father was there. He looked like his son, but older and harder. His eyes never left. They were filled with hatred. Beside him sat lawyers from 3 different species, all of them holding data pads filled with evidence against her. To her right sat the defense. There was only one person there, Commander, the diplomatic representative from Earth. She was a tall black woman with gray hair and a face that looked like it had seen many battles. She had arrived on a fast ship just hours ago. "This tribunal will now come to order," the head judge announced. They were a being made of light, shifting colors constantly. "We are here to examine the incident that occurred in classroom 7 Beta 9. The accused is human student. The charge is aggravated assault resulting in grievous bodily harm. Ambassador, you may present your case." Ambassador stood. He moved slowly, letting everyone see his pain, his grief, his rage. "My son," he said, "is in a medical facility fighting for his life. His face has been destroyed. He will require months of reconstruction surgery. He may never look the same again." He pointed at, "This creature did that. This animal from a savage world attacked my son without provocation." Without provocation, Commander's voice was sharp. "Ambassador, the recordings clearly show." "The recordings show my son touching the human," interrupted. "A touch, nothing more, and for this she destroyed his face. She nearly killed him." He turned to the judges. "This is not about my son. This is about the safety of every being on this station. Humans are dangerous. We have always known this. Now we have proof." He sat down. His lawyers began presenting evidence. They showed medical images of injuries. They showed statistics about human strength and speed. They showed records of human violence throughout history. "Humans are weapons," one lawyer said. "They cannot be allowed to walk among civilized species. They will always revert to their nature. This incident proves it." Listen to all of this in silence. Each word was a knife in her heart. She wanted to scream that she was not a weapon. She wanted to tell them that she had tried so hard to be peaceful, but she knew they would not believe her. Why would they? She had done exactly what they expected her to do. Finally, it was Commander's turn. The tall woman stood slowly. She looked at the judges, then at the audience, then at Ambassador. When she spoke, her voice was calm and clear. "I have heard a lot of talk about human nature today," she said. "About how humans are violent, about how we are dangerous, about how we cannot control ourselves." She paused. "Let me tell you about human nature." She walked to the center of the room, not far from where stood. "Humans evolved on you all know this. What you do not know is what that means. Every single day of our evolution, something was trying to kill us. Predators, disease, famine, natural disasters. Our own planet wanted us dead." She looked at the judges. We survived by becoming the most adaptable species in our world's history. We can eat almost anything. We can live in almost any climate. We can heal from injuries that would kill most of you." Her voice grew harder. "And yes, we can fight. When we are threatened, our bodies react. This is not a choice. This is biology. Our muscles, our bones, our entire nervous system was built to survive violence." She turned and pointed at Ambassador. "Your son knew this. Everyone at this academy knows this. Human physiology is taught in classes here. Everyone knows that humans are stronger than most species. Everyone knows that we have faster reflexes. Everyone knows that a confrontation with a human could be dangerous." Her voice rose. "And yet your son chose to strike one, in front of witnesses, in a classroom. He hit a human being in the face and expected her to do nothing." The room was silent. "Let me ask you something," continued. "If someone walked into a cage with a wild animal and poked it with a stick, whose fault would it be when the animal bit them?" "My son is not an animal," shouted. "Neither is," shouted back. "But you have been treating her like one since she arrived. Your son harassed her for days. He insulted her species. He called her primitive and savage. He knocked her books from her hands. He followed her and mocked her. And through all of this, she did nothing." She turned to the judges. "I have the recordings, not just from the classroom but from the entire week. Did everything right. She walked away from confrontation. She spoke softly. She refused to engage. She was trying to be a good representative of her species." She pointed at its empty seat. "He would not let her. He kept pushing. He kept attacking. He wanted to see her break. He wanted to prove that humans were violent monsters." Her voice dropped low. "Well, he proved it. He pushed her until her body had no choice but to fight back. And now he is in a medical facility, and we are here deciding whether to punish his victim." The room exploded with noise. People shouted. Some agreed with, others cursed at her. The judges called for order. When the room was quiet again, spoke one more time. "I have one more piece of evidence to present. I call Pell, Florian's student, to testify." A small door opened. Pell walked in, shaking with fear. The little plant creature looked tiny in the huge room, but his voice was steady when he spoke. "Hurt me," Pell said. "Many times he stole my nutrients, he called me names, he threatened me." He looked at the judges. "He hurt many students, everyone knew. No one stopped him because his father is important." Other students came forward. One by one they told their stories. A who had been mocked until she stopped coming to classes. A crystalline being whose arm had been cracked by his friends. A dozen others with a dozen stories. By the end, Ambassador was silent. His lawyers were looking at their data pads with unhappy faces. The judges announced they would consider the evidence and make their decision tomorrow. Was taken back to her small room, but this time she was not alone. Commander came with her. "You did good, kid," the older woman said. Shook her head. "I heard him, I almost killed him." "He hit you first. Your body did what human bodies do." Sat down across from her. "Listen to me. What happened was not your fault. You cannot control your instincts any more than your heart can control its beating. But the exchange program will survive, or it will not. Either way, it is not your burden to carry alone." Leaned forward. "You are 17 years old. You should be worried about homework and friends and whether that cute person in your class likes you. You should not be carrying the weight of human-galactic relations on your shoulders." Felt tears in her eyes again. She wiped them away quickly. "I just wanted to be normal," she whispered. Smiled sadly. "I know, but we are not normal. We never will be. We are humans. We come from a world of nightmares and we survived. That is who we are." She stood up. "Get some sleep. Tomorrow we find out what happens next." Lay down on her bed and closed her eyes. For the first time since the incident, she did not dream of blood and broken faces. She dreamed of earth, of rain on her face, of her mother's arms, of home. Tomorrow would come. Whatever it brought, she would face it. She was human. She knew how to survive. The tribunal chamber was even more crowded on the second day. News of the case had spread across the galaxy. Reporters from 100 worlds floated outside the station, waiting for the verdict. Inside, every seat was filled. Beings hung from the walls and ceiling, desperate to see what would happen. Stood on the same platform as before. She had not slept much, but she felt strangely calm. Whatever happened now was out of her hands. She had done everything she could. The rest was up to the judges. The 5 judges took their seats. The head judge, the being of shifting light, raised a hand for silence. This tribunal has considered all evidence in the matter of the Galactic Academy versus human, the judge announced. We have reviewed the recordings, the testimony, and the medical reports. We have consulted with experts on human physiology and law. We are now ready to deliver our verdict. The room held its breath. On the charge of aggravated assault resulting in grievous bodily harm, the judge said, we find the accused not guilty. Noise exploded through the chamber. Some cheered. Some shouted in anger. Ambassador jumped to his feet, his face twisted with rage. "This is an outrage," he screamed. "She destroyed my son's face." "Silence!" The judge's voice boomed through the room like thunder. "Ambassador, you will control yourself or you will be removed." Sat down, but his eyes burned with hatred. The judge continued. The evidence clearly shows that the student initiated physical contact. Under Section 7 of the Academy Charter, all students have the right to defend themselves from physical attack. The accused acted within this right. Another judge spoke. This one was a being of stone, with a voice like grinding rocks. However, we must address the matter of proportional response. The injuries suffered by student far exceeded what would normally be considered self-defense. His heart sank. Here it came, the punishment. But, the stone judge continued, we have reviewed the extensive documentation on human physiology. Humans cannot control the force of their defensive responses when under attack. Their bodies react automatically to threat. This is biological, not behavioral. The light judge nodded. Therefore, we assign no criminal punishment to the accused. However, we do require that she attend counseling sessions and conflict resolution training to help her manage future situations. Felt her knees go weak with relief. She was not going to prison. She was not being expelled. But the judges were not finished. We must also address the broader failures that led to this incident, the light judge said. Student engaged in a pattern of harassment against multiple students over many months. This behavior was reported to Academy administrators. Nothing was done. The judge's light turned a cold blue color. Ambassador, your son's actions created a hostile environment for students from many species. His behavior violated the Academy's code of conduct repeatedly. The fact that he was protected because of your political position is a failure of this institution. Ambassador opened his mouth to speak, but the judge cut him off. Student, upon his recovery, is expelled from the Galactic Academy. Ambassador, you are formally censured for attempting to use political pressure to influence this tribunal. Both of these decisions are final. The room erupted again. This time, most of the noise was approval. Students who had suffered under bullying were hugging each other. Teachers were nodding. Even some of the reporters looked satisfied. Stood alone on her platform, not quite believing what she was hearing. Finally, the judge said, we are implementing new safety protocols for students. All species will be assigned trained mediators to help manage cultural conflicts. All students will receive mandatory education on species-specific physiology, including the dangers of physical confrontation with high-gravity species. These measures will help prevent incidents like this in the future. The tribunal was dismissed. People began filing out of the chamber. Ambassador stormed away without looking at anyone. His lawyers hurried after him. Commander appeared at side. The tall woman was smiling. "You did it, kid," she said. "You survived." Shook her head slowly. "I did not do anything. You did. The witnesses did. I just stood there." "That is enough sometimes." Put a hand on her shoulder. "Go back to your life. You have earned it." The next few weeks were strange. Returned to her classes, but everything had changed. Students who had avoided her before now smiled at her in the hallways. Teachers who had been cold were now warm. Even the food machine seemed to give her larger portions. She was not sure she liked it. One day, Pell found her sitting alone in the library. The little plant creature sat down across from her and said nothing for a long time. "Thank you," Pell finally said, "for what you did." Looked up. "I did not do anything for you. I just reacted." "You stopped him." Pell's leaves rustled softly. "Everyone knew what was. We were all too scared to do anything. We thought no one could stop him because his father was powerful." The little being looked at her with bright eyes. "You showed us that power does not make someone untouchable." Thought about this for a long time. "I did not mean to be a hero," she said. "I was not trying to make a statement. My body just did what it did." Pell made a sound like rustling leaves. The translator called it a laugh. "Maybe that is what makes it matter. You did not calculate. You did not plan. When someone hurt you, you fought back. That is something some of us have never been able to do." Joined them later. The green was nervous as always, but also excited. "I have been reading about Earth," said. "About your history. Do you know what I found interesting?" Shook her head. "Your species has always been this way. When someone tried to conquer you, you fought. When someone tried to enslave you, you rebelled. When someone told you something was impossible, you did it anyway." His golden eyes were wide. "You are not just survivors. You are people who refuse to accept defeat." "We lose sometimes," said quietly. "We make mistakes. We hurt each other." "Yes, but you keep trying." Leaned forward. "That is what I think a really is. Not someone who seeks violence, but someone who cannot be made to give up. Someone who will not accept being a victim." Thought about this. She thought about her ancestors running across grasslands after prey. She thought about her grandparents surviving wars and famines. She thought about her parents working hard every day to give her a better life. Maybe was right. Maybe being from Earth was not about being dangerous. Maybe it was about being unbreakable. 6 months later, another human arrived at the academy. His name was, he was from Lagos, Nigeria. He was 16 years old and absolutely terrified. Met him at the docking bay. He was tall and thin, with wide eyes that looked at everything like it might attack him. When he saw her, he froze. "You are," he said. "I heard about you. Everyone on Earth heard about you." Smiled. She was careful not to show too many teeth. "What did they say?" "That you," he swallowed, "that you hurt someone, that you almost ruined everything for humanity." "Is that all they said?" He hesitated. "They also said you were defending yourself, that you were brave, that you did not let anyone push you around." Nodded. "That is closer to the truth." She started walking and followed. "This place can be hard for humans. Everyone is afraid of us. They think we are monsters." "Are we?" She thought about the question. "We can be, if we need to be, but that is not all we are." She stopped and turned to face him. "You are going to be okay here. Just remember some things." "What things?" "Be kind, be patient. Walk away from fights when you can." She paused. "But do not let anyone make you feel ashamed of what you are. We come from a hard world and we are strong because of it. That strength is not something to hide." Nodded slowly. He still looked scared, but there was something else in his eyes now, something like hope. "What if someone does what that did to you?" he asked. "What if someone hits me?" Looked at him for a long moment. She thought about her fist connecting with his face. She thought about the sound it made. She thought about the weeks of nightmares that followed. She also thought about Pell, free from his bully for the first time. She thought about all the students who could now walk the halls without fear. She thought about what it said about not accepting defeat. If someone hits you, she said finally, you hit them back. You do not start fights, but you end them. She put a hand on his shoulder. We are not here to be weapons, we are here to be people. But if someone tries to make you a victim, you remind them what world we come from. Looked at her hand, then at her face. Slowly he stood up. What world do we come from? He asked. Smiled, this time she showed her teeth. Earth, she said. The world that tried to kill us every day for 1,000,000 years, and we won. They walked into the station together. Behind them, through the window, stars burned in the endless dark. Somewhere among those stars was a small blue planet where the gravity crushed you, the air burned you, and everything wanted you dead. And somehow, against all odds, that planet had produced people who walked among the stars. Not conquerors, not monsters. Just humans. Strong enough to survive anything. Kind enough to try to be better. And brave enough to never, ever give up.